Death Fugue by Paul Celan. About the author. Hi everyone, hope all of you are safe at home. Now we are going to discuss a poem, Death Fugue by Paul Celan. Paul Celan was born as Paul Anstel to a German-speaking Jewish family in Romania in 1920. Later, he changed his surname to Celan and adopted it as his pen name. In 1938, Paul Celan moved to Paris to learn medicine. But before the outbreak of the Second World War, he returned to Romania. During wartime, Paul Celan worked in a forced labor camp for 18 months. Both his parents were deported to a Nazi concentration camp, where his father died of typhus and his mother was shot dead because she was unable to work anymore. Paul Celan, he somehow escaped from the forced labor camp and later he settled in Paris. In Paris, he taught German language and literature. Paul Celan was familiar with at least 6 languages and fluent in languages like Russian, Romanian and French. So there in Paris he worked as a translator and earned his income. His major poetry collections include Sands from Urns, published in 1948, Poppy and Memory in 1952, From Threshold to Threshold in 1955 and Breath Turn in 1957. The poet, he also received several notable awards. And for a long time, Paul Celan, he was suffering from depression, and in 1970 he committed suicide by drowning himself into a river. Introduction of the poem. Death Fugue was originally written in Romanian in 1944, was translated into German in 1948 under the title Todesque. It is frequently cited as an example of Holocaust poetry. It comes under the trauma literature or rubble literature. Trauma literature or rubble literature is a German literary movement that came immediately after the Second World War. Its main concerns are the horrors and ruins of the Second World War. This poem, Death Fugue, it depicts the horrors of Holocaust from the viewpoint of some prisoners. Now let us look at the historical background of the poem. In 1930s, Nazi Party rose into power in Germany. From 1933 to 1945, Adolf Hitler engaged in the imprisonment, deportment and genocide of the Jewish community. He believed that Jews, Slavics, communists and homosexuals were a threat to the German community. So he started Nazi concentration camps where the Jews were treated brutally. He wanted to make a pure race of Germans. And in the concentration camps, while doing the labor, Jews were forced to sing patriotic songs. Sometimes at the time of torture and execution, they were forced to play music. Such practice is colloquially known as death tango. One such event is a theme of this poem, Death Fugue. So let us discuss the title of the poem, Death Fugue. A fugue is a musical composition made by the famous German composer Bach. In this poem, Paul Celan, he transfers this compositional style into poetical structure. Here in this poem, we can see that several lines are repeated. These repeated lines, it shows the horrors of the Holocaust. And so many so many translators have translated this poem into English. But currently we are going to discuss the translation made by Christopher Middleton into English. And another notable thing is that there are several speakers in this poem, and these speaker is a we, or speakers are we, that signifies the prisoners who were imprisoned in the concentration camp. So let us move on to the poem in detail. Analysis of the poem. Black milk of daybreak, we drink it at nightfall, we drink it at noon in the morning, we drink it at night, we drink it and drink it. Normally, milk is white in color, but here milk is represented as black. That ironically symbolizes the horrors and the sufferings of the Jewish prisoners in the Nazi concentration camp. It also symbolizes the unnourishing food these prisoners are getting in the concentration camp. Here in this poem we can see that we drink it is repeating. That repetition shows it again symbolizes the unnourishing food these prisoners have to take and the monotony of taking such food. The black is normally associated with death, grief, sufferings, etc. So the poet clearly, in the first line itself, the poet clearly wants to show the horrors and the trauma suffered by these prisoners in the Jewish camp. And in Old Testament Exodus, God promises the land of milk and honey. But here in the concentration camp, these Jews, they are treated brutally and they were executed, and which is something which is against the promise of the God. We are digging a grave in the sky. It is ample to lie there. Digging a grave symbolizes the forced labor in the concentration camps. Here these prisoners, they have to dig graves to bury the dead bodies of the Jews who were killed and slaughtered in the concentration camps. Again here we can see there is an allusion to the gas chambers used to kill these Jews by the Nazis. Another notable thing is that here the prisoners are not digging the grave in the land, but they are digging it in the sky. It also indicates the lack of the proper burial of the dead bodies. A man in the house, he plays with the serpents, he writes. He writes when the night falls to Germany, your golden hair, Margaret. In these lines, poet introduces a prison guard. And this prison guard, he is a man who writes and he plays with snakes. And this prison guard, he is living in a house, unlike the prisoners who lives in the concentration camp. That means he lives in a better condition than these Jewish prisoners in the concentration camp. And as I have told you, this prison guard, he plays with the serpents. Playing with the serpents or the snakes. Generally snakes are associated with, in biblical reference and all, snakes are associated with sinister, with sin, temptation and all. Remember the negative connotations associated with the snakes. And that shows the negative side, the barbaric, cruel side of the prison guard. He is a person who writes. That means he is educated and civilized. And here we can see that education or civilization doesn't make any sense, as he is the prison guard of this concentration camp. And here another thing is that this prison guard, he idealizes Margaret, and he writes about Margaret. Margaret is a character from the Goethe's, German writer Goethe's famous work Faustus. And in the play, Faustus sells his soul to Satan in return of power and education, knowledge. and he is associated with Mephistopheles, and with the help of Mephistopheles, this Faustus, he seduces Margaret, a poor German girl. Here the Margaret is associated, the golden hair of the Margaret is associated with the Nazi racial ideal.
He rides it and walks from the house, the stars glitter. He whistles his dogs up, he whistles his Jews out, and orders a grave to be dug in the earth. He commands us strike up for the dance.
The prison guard abuses and threatens the prisoners to dig a grave in the earth, and he orders them to play music and dance. In the real concentration camps, during the time of execution, the prisoners were forced to play music. So the poet, he also tries to relate the musical culture of the Germans. Even though the prison guard is a person who writes and he appreciates nature, he appreciates the glittering stars and all, even though he is poetical at his heart, he is cruel. And he is cruel, and he is ordering the prisoners to dance at the time of grave digging. In the earlier lines, the poet was talking about digging a grave in the sky, but now the poet is talking about the reality of digging the grave in the earth. Black milk of daybreak, we drink you at night, we drink you in the morning, at noon, we drink you at nightfall, drink you and drink you. See the repetition of the lines black milk. Here we can see the fugue form. A fugue is a musical composition in which it starts with a theme and returns to that theme several times. Here in this poem also, it starts with the black milk theme, and here in these lines we can see the repetition of that lines. The repetition of the lines or the refrain also shows the endless labor, endless sufferings, toil and struggle of the prisoners. A man in the house, he plays with the serpents, he writes when the night falls to Germany, your golden hair Margaret, your ashen hair Shulamit, we are digging a grave in the sky, it is ample to lie there. Here we can again see the repetition of the lines. The prison guard is thinking about Margaret. And here the poet introduces another woman character, Shulamit, in contrast with the Margaret. And Shulamit is a princess from the Hebrew text, the Songs of the Songs. Shulamit is an ideal woman figure from the Jewish tradition, and her hair is described as ashen. Remember the contrast of the golden hair, golden blonde hair of the Margaret. Here, this Shulamit, she symbolizes the Jewish woman or the Jewish people. Normally, ash or grey color is associated with death. Here, the ashen hair of the Shulamit symbolizes the dead bodies, the ashes of the dead bodies which are buried in the crematorium.
He shouts, stab deeper in the earth, you there, and you others, you sing and you play. He grabs at the iron in his belt and swings it, and blue are his eyes. Stab deeper, your spades, you there, and you others, play on for the dancing.
The cruelty and wildness of the prison guard is clearly revealed in these lines. We can see that the prison guard is imposing his power and authority over the Nazi prisoners, over the Jewish prisoners. He grabs an iron belt and he swings it. He threatens the prisoners to do the work as fast as possible. Meanwhile, he orders them to sing also. Here we can see that the blue eyes of the prison guard, it symbolizes the Nazi racial ideal.
Black milk of daybreak, we drink you at nightfall, we drink you at noon in the mornings, we drink you at nightfall, drink you and drink you. A man in the house, your golden hair Margaret, your ashen hair Shulamith, he plays with the serpents.
The black milk refrain again comes here, the line repeats.
He shouts, play sweeter, death's music. Death comes as a master from Germany. He shouts, stroke darker the strings, and as smoke you shall climb to the sky. Then you'll have a grave in the clouds, it's amble to lie there.
The prison guard shouts at the prisoners to sing the song of death. And here appears the famous lines, death comes as a master from Germany. In these lines, it is really clear that what Germans expect from the Jews. A master-slave relationship. Germans, they feel that their race is superior to that of the Jews. They want to control them. They want to execute them. They want to finish them. And the killing part is very clear here. After the singing and the digging, these prisoners will be turned into smoke to climb the sky, and there they have to dig a grave in the clouds. The killing part is very, very clear. They will be executed, they will be killed, and it's so cruel.
Black milk of daybreak, we drink you at night, we drink you at noon. Death comes as a master from Germany. We drink you at nightfall and morning, we drink you and drink you.
Here we come across the final variation of the fugue. Death comes as a master from Germany is repeated along with the black milk refrain. The poet has introduced a kind of cyclical refrain, and this indicates the trap set by the Nazis against the Jews. There is no escape from the concentration camps.
A master from Germany, death comes with eyes that are blue. With a bullet of lead, he will hit in the mark, he will hit you.
Death's eyes are described as blue in color. The guard is here to kill the Jews with the bullets, lead bullets.
A man in the house, your golden haired Margaret, he hunts us down with his dogs in the sky. He gives us a grave. He plays with the serpents and dreams. Death comes as a master from Germany. Your golden haired Margaret, your ashen hair Shulamith.
Here we come across the end of the poem filled with death and violence. The prison guard hunts the prisoners with his dogs. He gives a grave to them in the sky. He plays with his serpents and dreams. Thank you for watching the video. Stay home, stay safe.